Hi everyone, I'm Mike Abadi. Welcome to VTblogosphereTV, episode number 34. We are, oh my God, 7/11. It's July 11th. It's a hot day here in Vermont.
Yeah, it is.
And Eddie Garcia is Kestrel 9000. He is a prolific blogger, both locally at Green Mountain Daily. He's a front pager, and he's a frequently recommended diarist at Daily Coast.
Oh, I do okay.
You're often there. You have many a hit record. He has been keeping track of some of the changes that are going on at Daily Coast, which is, it's really the premier national progressive blog. Is that, how would you describe Daily?
I describe it as an organ of the Democratic Party more than anything else. Progressive, liberal, the definitions of that vary. But the one thing that is consistent on Daily Coast is that it's there to advance the agenda of the Democratic Party. Doesn't mean you can't complain about the Democratic Party. Doesn't mean you can't criticize it. But if you go on there and start saying stuff like, "Oh, let's not vote for this person and vote for a Green instead," yeah, that won't fly.
Right.
You can do almost anything else. You can talk about your kitty cat.
Right.
As long as your kitty cat's a Democrat.
Yeah, that's right. They post the Pootie pics.
The Pootie diaries, yeah.
There are all kinds of sort of little cultural pieces, but at the heart and soul of it is really forwarding the Democratic, would you say as a party, or just sort of the general after? It really is locked in with the party itself.
It has to be, to a certain extent, because if it's not, it's going to lose a certain amount of identity. First and foremost, they're there to get Democrats elected. The exception being Bernie Sanders, we love him to death.
Right, right. What's their line? Better and more and
better Democrats.
More and better Democrats.
More and better Democrats.
So there's room to criticize the Democratic Party and try to pull it in a direction that's more progressive.
Certainly, and the definition of better varies, obviously. More is a pretty monolithic word. It's the opposite of less. But one person might have a different idea of what constitutes better than another, and that's just fine.
Right, right. And I guess actually in its, I don't know, mission statement or the frequently asked questions, it actually does state that our stated goal is to elect.
Is to get Democrats elected and advance the party. And
there are other stipulations. CT diaries. What's a CT diary? I guess the classic one is the 9/11 one.
One of the few things that's actually banned. We were saying extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So therefore, it is specifically in the FAQ, it's bannable to state that the events of September 11, 2001 were caused by anything other than agents of Al-Qaeda smashing airplanes into buildings. That's what happened, period. If you don't like that, start your own blog.
Right.
It's really funny you should mention that because, obviously in my career life, I work at a radio station, and I just got slapped with 12 commercials to produce for architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. Okay.
Really?
They're going to be doing a show in Bethlehem at the Colonial Theater. So I'm sitting there producing these spots, just having a ball doing that, thinking I could post these spots on Daily Coast and I'd get in so much trouble.
You'd get what's called troll rated, right?
Well, they call it hide rated now.
That's right.
It used to be called troll rated back in the day, but they stopped doing that because it created an end to label somebody as a troll. Somebody might be hide rated because they had a bad day. They said something inappropriate that they might have said at another time, and the trusted users will decide that that needs to be hidden from the general community, so you'll hide rate it.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily make them a troll. It just means that they had a civility failure.
Yeah.
I've been known to have the occasional civility failures.
Right. But a troll would be someone who's actively going on to just chip away and aggravate people. And
a troll is a person that's there to disrupt and derail. And they get banned eventually.
So the name of the sort of giving someone a zero is now called to hide rate.
To hide rate, yeah. There used to be 0 through 4 ratings. Now there's just an approve, a recommend, or a hide.
Right. So actually, with that, talking about the used to be, that's a really good avenue to discuss. Its many incarnation. I guess we're at 4 right now.
We're at 4 now, and you can go all the way back to the origins of the site. If you want to see the way it looked in the early days, go to dailycoast.net, and the old, the original graphics, the old style sheets are all still there.
It's archived.
Yeah, it's archived. You can go flipping through that. It progressed to Daily Coast 3, and they were threatening us with Daily Coast 4 for the longest time before they finally got around to it. And of course, we all had our reservations about that. There's always going to be a big if it ain't broke, don't fix it attitude. And I have to confess to you, I didn't go on the blog and say that loudly, but I remember toward the end they delayed the launch of DK4 by a week. Didn't hurt my feelings.
Right, right. It was, I guess, February that the newish version of the DK4 was launched.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, because I was looking at your, you snuck in a diary. I don't know about comparing Daily Kos 4 to perhaps New Coke. You brought up the history of sort of the failed product. If you want to. Do you remember that in the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
When New Coke
oh, absolutely. New Coke was terrible. What was funny when I posted that diary, which was just basically a statement of trepidation of messing with the brand, and of course people came in the thread and started commenting. Somebody said, yeah, I did this when they went from 2 to 3. compared it to New Coke. Now I guess DK4 is when you could rate someone a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4, right? Back in the early days of DK3, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They changed it to a pair of radio buttons from the numerical ratings, like you'll still find on Green Mountain Daily, long ago.
Right.
The 3 got to be legendary. They did that because it started to annoy people. And there was one guy that was going around giving everybody 3s and would almost never get out of 4.
Yeah.
A guy named Carl Nyberg. To this day, people still start talking about the Carl Nyberg 3.
There's a folklore around that.
Yeah, there is a folklore around that. Because then your mojo numbers get funny and everything, and they decide to just do away with it. Recommend.
Yeah, it's basically thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
But you don't use a hide rate to say I disagree with you.
It
really has to be
that'll get you in a heap of trouble.
Right.
No, the hide rate is not issued for simple disagreement. It's issued by you're vouching on your status as a trusted user. This comment is disruptive. It is untrue. It is a violation of community norms and should be hidden from the community. Now, obviously, there are abusive hide rates issued all the time. There are abusive up rates to posts that have been righteously hide rated because people have friends and people have enemies. Right. If it gets out of hand, the moderator steps in, which he's very loath to do, and I commend him for that. Although it scares some people, moderation on the site is nowhere near as robust as it once was. It was a problem for a while. They backed off too far at one point.
Okay. Okay.
And they kind of returned to a more reasonable level of moderation. You know, sometimes I think I would want that job, and other times I think I wouldn't.
Oh, jeez, making all those judgment calls?
Right.
That would be rough.
It's a thankless job. Anytime you make a ruling, it's not going to please somebody.
And that's Meteor Blades,
That's
right?
Meteor Blades, yeah. I think he does a pretty good job with it. And if you or anybody else aren't pleased with the job he's doing with it, just put yourself in his shoes. Think about that for a little while.
Yeah.
You know, because the man's a writer. He's a journalist. His writing credentials and the work he's done far predate not only the existence of Daily Kos, but of any blog at all.
Right.
So he came there to write.
Right.
And he found himself roped into the role of director of community. And I think sometimes it kind of sucks the wind out of his sails.
It's like having lunch duty or something when you're.
Yeah, it's like being a hall monitor. Yeah, exactly.
So DK4 launched in the winter. There was a long kind of beta period where you could go to how the site's going to look. It was months and months. So what do you see as its pluses and minuses, or have you engaged the new features, or what are the new features? Or
okay, you know what I think the biggest drawback is to Daily Kos 4? The thing that drives me nuts more than anything else is when you go into a diary, there's obviously a preface section. And then there is the main body of the diary, you know, on the flip, on the jump, whatever. Right. You get your sort of teaser line and then the body, right? Now, in between your prefacing paragraph and the main body of the diary, they got this thing. They got this squiggly-diggly thing that looks like it came off a sofa in a thrift store. It's ugly, it's an eyesore, it's unsightly, it serves no useful function. Get rid of it! That is my considered opinion. I think they're actually, it's like trying to look classy somehow, like I don't know what they're thinking. Like a doily under a teacup or something. The style sheet calls it the divider doodle. Okay. It's a doodle. We call it a doodle. Divider doodle. Some people call it the fleur de cos. I call it the squiggly gibbet, or worse. I have seen it referred to by a bunch of different names, some of which we will not disgrace this presentation with. At one point, I actually put that in my signature line. I grabbed the HTML off the style sheet, and my SIG said, "You have a SIG line, I have a squig line." And I went around dropping that thing on every comment I posted for about 3 days, waiting for the admins to say something. They never did. So you're anti-squiggle. I am totally anti-squiggle. I hate the divider doodle. That is a change that is, I guess, purely stylistic. Right. When I look at the site now compared to the old one, it looks to me like it's trying to look more professional or more
classy or something. They got rid of the guy waving the flag, sort of the activist image.
But that's still your default avatar if you don't change it. That's one of the additions.
Still there, yeah.
That's one of the additions to Daily Kos 4 is now you can put up your own avatar.
Okay.
Right. If you want an analogy of the cosmetic change between Daily Kos 3 and Daily Kos 4, consider the Enterprise from the old Star Trek television series and the one from the movies. Okay, they just upgraded it. You know, whatever.
Okay.
There's additional functionality and a great deal of it.
Right. Right. There are now, well, I guess there's always been groups, but now they're sort of better built into the site as a whole.
Groups always formed themselves, but they were mainly an idea in people's heads. There were conventions and unwritten rules that people used around groups. You could appropriate your group name or whatever, communicate off-site, you know, do whatever. But now groups are a functionality within Daily Kos. There's actually a group function on your profile. It shows what groups you belong to.
Right.
And you can be invited to a group. You can leave a group. A number of different things. You can put a follow on diarist. If there's a diarist whose work you particularly like, you can hit this little heart button, and then you follow that person. And then when they post a diary, it shows up in your stream.
Right, which is really a major change, that each person has a My Stream button where you can go to all the stuff you follow, all the groups you've joined, and just kind of get your customized version of Daily Kos. And
I loved that when it first came out, but I found that over time, for whatever reason, I haven't been using the stream feature as much as I was initially.
Okay.
I've got follows on all kinds of people, sure. But one of the things that they did initially when they rolled out Daily Kos 4 was they changed the recent diaries list to where you needed to have a recommendation from a trusted user to even show up at all.
You couldn't get on the front page.
You couldn't get on the front page until someone recommended you.
Right.
They figured that was all right because everyone had their stream. They were following people, and everybody would get there eventually.
Yeah.
Well, that caused a lot of wailing, screaming, rending of garments, and gnashing of teeth. So eventually they changed that back.
Right. So now if you write a diary, you do end up, well, there's recommended, and then you do end up on the front page.
The recent diaries
you can watch yourself fall off the page if you don't get recommended.
You watch yourself fall off the page, or if you're having a good day, you watch yourself jump up into the rec list.
That's right. But when they first launched DK4, if you wrote a diary, you would just sort of be relegated to this little My Diaries button that someone would have to go to find, read, recommend, and then you would pop up. And what was that about? They were feeling like there were too many sort of junk diaries that were representing.
They were. I think they were compensating for the fact that you're not limited to one diary a day anymore.
Oh, which is itself another large change.
That's another major change. Back during Daily Kos 3, you were limited to one diary a day. Now you can post all you can eat. So the expression for a while was diary hell. I used to get IMs from people. Would you let me out of diary hell? Sure. Give them a rec and get them on the list. Daily Kos also now has internal mail. You can private message somebody. You can message to your group.
That's right. So they may have looked at like Facebook and other social. It's more of social networking going on.
It definitely has more SN features than it did before. There's more integration with Facebook. You can log in from Facebook. You can log in from Twitter. You can share directly to Facebook, right to Twitter. Although I think they had a Facebook share button before DK4 launched.
Have you joined many a group? Are there ones that you are feeling very much a part of? Like it's.
Well, I had one I left yesterday.
Okay, is that worth exploring the why of that?
I have always, prior to the existence of the group function, I've always cherished my autonomy on Daily Kos. I answer to the FAQ. If the admins tell me no, obviously you're going to listen to that. But I found that when I got into this group, too many people had too many things to say about what they wanted the image of the group to be like. So therefore, that gave them an in to start beating you with a stick. You're making the group look bad. Don't do this, don't do that. And extended beyond the group to where they would say, well, since you're a member of this group that's about subject A, but you're over here screaming about subject B, everybody knows you're in the group of subject A, so you're still making us look bad. And I got to the point where in private dialogue with a matter that took place over the weekend, somebody actually said to me, the likes of you. No, that's not going to fly. So I tendered my resignation from that group, and I will still continue to engage that issue, but now that group doesn't have to worry about me damaging their reputation anymore.
So they were actually concerned about what you were saying outside of the group in other
There was an element of that. There was an element of that, but the main thing was that it was concerned with dialogue on that particular subject. Well, now they're free, because I'm going to continue to engage that subject. But if I say something they don't like and someone turns around and tries to hammer the group about it, they, as well as I, will say, hey, I'm not a group member anymore. Still friends with all of them. It's going to be an interesting experience. Now they have a deniable operative.
That's right. He's a plant, right? What is it, a hot button issue? Do you care sharing about what common concern people grouped around that?
What was the group topic?
Yeah,
right to keep and bear arms.
So that's RKBA.
RKBA, right? But the actual name of the group is Right to Keep and Bear Arms. You try and be a Second Amendment advocate on a heavily liberal Democratic blog. You're a pariah. Okay, there are people that will attack you just because they can. Then when you refute their arguments, they'll scream at you that you're uncivil, that you're not a true Democrat. You know, you don't dare try and fight back. Anytime that you disagree with them, they say you're bullying them. Roving gangs of bullying, stalking the site and attacking people. Or they say about
and they're
us.
armed, right?
Yeah, and they're armed.
How many followers does RKBA have? Is it a healthy group?
After the last time there was a major controversy and people attacked us, the group grew by about 15, 20 members.
Really?
Yeah, you could look it up on Daily Kos. Just go to the groups and you can count how many people are in that group. I hesitate to say a number off the top of my head, but it's more than 30 or 40, I think. And just, not all of them are active, but they are listed as group members.
Right, and just in terms of scale, Daily Kos has, are we in the 300,000s for total membership for people that are signed up?
The highest number I've seen is somewhere around 310,000.
So we're in the, okay. So
everybody has a user number.
Right.
I'm 69938.
I'm 76 something.
Yeah, so you came just a little bit after me.
Yeah, that's how people tell how new they
right. You just drag your mouse over someone's screen name, look down the lower left, and it'll show their number.
Right.
How long they've been around.
Right. So you wrote in April, a couple months ago. This was a recommended diary, and it had like 1,300 and some crazy number of comments. It takes forever to load this thing now if you go to it. But it was called Daily Kos as We Knew It May Cease to Exist.
If you have a problem loading that diary, hit the permalink. It'll just put the diary text
do the diary and no comments.
Diary text, no comments.
That's a good
so that's
workaround.
When they start picking up all them comments, it takes forever to load.
Right.
You can also collapse the comments so you can expand only the comments you want to see. There's ways to get around that.
Yeah. Was that your first 1,000 comment diary? That's I mean, breaking 1,000
I think I first broke 1,000 with one about somebody suggesting that people leave America.
Oh, during the Bush years, that kind of thing?
It was after Obama was elected, and it didn't set well with me. So I responded to it, and I got quite a few comments, and not all of them were supportive. But
so that's an amazing just to generate 1,000. That level of conversation. I mean, that's.
I've cracked 1,000 at least 3 times I can think of.
So this one you wrote a couple months ago about the
Daily Kos as We Know It May Cease to Exist.
Yeah, was the content there and.
Well, that wasn't really. I wasn't lamenting the demise of DK3. That had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
They because of the group's function and the compartmentalization of the site, the admins undertook a decision to relax moderation. They went too far at that point. Moderation got too relaxed. And because the disputes were more compartmentalized, and this is what they were thinking in the first place. They knew what they were doing. Okay?
Meaning there'd be little conversations going on in these groups, one about gun control, one about healthcare, one about the environment, one about...
They figured with the compartmentalization, with the group's function, that it wouldn't matter as much if people were throwing sticks and rocks, right? And I could see where they would think that.
Right.
But there, there's the concept, and then there's the implementation. It didn't work. And to the point where they weren't monitoring the groups enough, and this one guy started a group advocating for the legalization of cartoon kiddie porn. Cartoon child pornography. Yeah, a group advocating for the legalization of child porn cartoons on the biggest Democratic blog in the country. And I went after him. I went in his face. I demanded he take the group down. He refused. Another guy wrote a diary about it. That guy turned out to be a cop. Okay, so we went full tilt boogie after the guy, and that was a big reason that diary, Daily Kos as We Know It May Cease to Exist, was to call that person out. What ended up happening was that he was suspended for a period of time and the group was dissolved.
Right. Now there used to be a time, and I've noticed this if I don't post for a while, I lose my little trusted user status. But it seems like now I just sort of hold on to it even if I don't post for a while. And it seems like someone can get a lot of negative ratings, hide rates, and not disappear like they used to. I imagine that person was hydrated into what you would assume be oblivion, but they were still able to post. Is that what was going on? It's sort of
what the person I was referring to?
Yeah,
he was administratively suspended.
He was administrated, so there was not an auto kind of kick
there
in.
Was there's a debate, and it always has been a debate over whether auto ban actually exists or not. I try to stay out of that one myself. There's been theories that sometimes auto ban has kicked in, and the admins have restored it by hand because they were getting hit with troll ratings, hide ratings that they shouldn't have. Any number of theories out there. I don't know. If somebody's banned, they get banned. I'm not too particularly worried about it. But one reason that you're finding that you're keeping your TU longer over periods of inactivity is because you have a low number.
Oh, really? That is a new factor. So there's a formula.
If you have a paid subscription, that factors into it too.
Right.
Yeah, they've completely recomputed the algorithm, and it's a closely guarded secret, like Colonel Sandler's Herbs and Spices.
Right, or the original.
Right.
Yeah. That's funny. Coke and Coast. Your latest diary is the title requests that people not comment on.
Please do not comment in my diary.
Yeah. What's going on there?
This is what happened. Okay. A well-respected diarist, a good boots-on-the-ground Democrat, who, other than his last excursion, I have nothing but respect for. Guy in Wisconsin. His screen name is Kodiak54. This guy's bad, okay? It was in the State House every day, all over the Scott Walker issue, at all the protests. Everybody loves him. Good, solid Democrat. It's well they should. Wisconsin, however, recently legalized concealed carry. They put up a concealed carry law, making, I should point out, Wisconsin the 49th state in the United States to have some kind of concealed carry permitting process for civilians, leaving only Illinois as the only state that doesn't. Here in Vermont, you don't need a permit. We're as loose as it gets. Okay, so this guy went in and started screaming bloody murder about the horrible Scott Walker, which he is. He is a horrible person. Obviously, he is. I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that's left of Nixon who likes Scott Walker.
Right.
Okay, but he decided to start beating that drum about the concealed carry.
Concealed carry passed in their new Republican legislature in Wisconsin, and he took that as a piece of the.
It turned Wisconsin into, I believe, a shall issue state. I could be wrong on that, but what a shall issue state means is, absent a reason to deny you a permit, they have to issue what you want.
Okay.
Unless you're a convicted criminal or some other delineated bar to it. In a shall issue state, absent a reason to deny you, they have to issue one. Contrast that with a may issue state, meaning it's up to the discretion of local law enforcement. They can deny you because they don't like your shoes. Okay. So this guy started screaming bloody murder about that, and that's fine. You can say that, but we're going to debate you. Okay. So what he did was he said, and I know that the RKBA roving gang of thugs is going to attack me. They're all going to come here and start screaming at me. But you know what? But you know what? I don't comment in you guys' diaries, so please don't comment in mine. I've heard all your arguments. I don't care what you have to say, so please don't post in my diary.
Right.
The hell with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I
was in there in a minute. That's not even the RKBA issue. That's not how blogs work.
Right.
You can't go on and say.
That's why there's a comment feature.
That's why there's a comment feature. You can't go on and say, this is my position, and if you want to debate me or if you don't agree with me, go start your own diary. That's not going to fly. Come on now.
Right.
So I went in there and told them what I thought of that. And of course, the argument ensued because several of us followed in there and started making the counter arguments. Immediately, this guy started screaming that he was being bullied. Okay, being bullied, and then announced his intention to leave the site. Now, what's the intention of that? To make RKBA look bad. Remember, it's a contentious issue on a Democratic blog. So I believe it was a strategy. I think some of the enemies of the RKBA group put him up to that. He used his cred in order to discredit the RKBA group. A debate within the group ensued. One person, and the leader of the group was away for the weekend, as fate would have it. One person started screamingly insisting that none of us should ever have posted in there, and I said, no, actually we should have, because you can't let that stand. That idea cannot be allowed to take hold, that a person can declare another person or group or class of people unwelcome in a diary and expect that they have to abide by that? No, that cannot be allowed to flourish.
Now, what you did very artfully in that please do not comment on my diary was you actually led with the sort of two faces of Obama. There's kind of this continuous
Right.
battle about is Obama a corporate shill, a Republican who's just caring about deficit
The
reduction?
firebaggers versus the Obama boss. Yeah.
That's what you call a pie fight. There's a history of these pie fights at Daily Kos.
Go to YouTube and Google Gilligan's Island pie fight, and you will find why the pie fight is called the pie fight. This is right before I got there. It was a commercial for a Gilligan's Island TV movie with Ginger and Marianne fighting with cream pies, and the site blew up. It was considered sexist and exploitative of women.
Right.
People quit over it.
Marco said the women's study set or something. He used the line that
and to this day, the expression pie means I don't care. Pie fight is a pie fight. Pie this, pie that, and it became a permanent feature of the meta.
So you actually, last time you were on this show, Obama had just been inaugurated.
Right.
Have you gotten into this sort of who is Obama really back and forth battles? Is he, there?
I would prefer to support him. He makes it difficult at times.
Mm-hmm. And you really haven't engaged the. There's just sort of the messianic view of Obama, and there's this sort of he's really a Republican view of Obama, and there's a nasty back and forth, and it's another.
I try to stay off the extreme ends of that. The same way I stay off the extreme ends of the Israeli-Palestinian debate.
Oh boy!
Now the extreme ends of the gun rights debate. Never mind that for now.
Yeah. Is there a gun control group? Is there an organized sort of answering to?
It's always shocked me. There's not. There is no organized gun control group on Daily Kos. I believe that there is a group organized behind the scenes that is meant to go after the gun rights group and discredit them. I believe that firmly. I'm here to tell you that there is, but they don't seem to have the stones to organize and post as a group.
Okay, so I guess there's the chat. The gauntlet is thrown.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And you can actually go and see what new groups have been started today. There's sort of a groups feature.
There's a groups feature.
So you can just keep an eye on what's been.
Going back to what you were just talking about, I want to be clear about something. I don't belong to the gun rights group on Daily Kos anymore.
Right.
I have tendered my resignation from the Right to Keep and Bear Arms group. There are a number of reasons for that. I'm still friends with most of them. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very close friends with the guy who actually established the group and administrates it. And he intends to use me to his best advantage, because now I can say whatever I want and they can't lay it off on the group.
Okay. The leash is off,
The
people.
leash is off, that's right.
And
I'm a lone wolf.
The Kestrel, what do Kestrels have little things that put on? When they set the Kestrel, the town goes on aren't Kestrels sometimes?
Smallest falcon in North America.
Aren't they leashed or something? Are they
they're a bird for a skilled falconer. It's not a bird for a novice falconer, because they have a very narrow weight tolerance, and you have to weigh within like an ounce one way or the other or something like that. But we're not talking about falconry today.
That's right, and we are actually wrapping up. That's been a really good half an hour. Check out Kestrel stuff locally, Green Mountain Daily. And also on Daily Kos, you might even see him on the recommended list. Mm-hmm. And,
I hope
so. Prolific and very good, thoughtful stuff. A lot of fun with also music. A lot of great music posts you've done.
I've been slacking off on those. I need to start getting into another one.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good, and they sort of ease up on the when people get too policy oriented. Right, go after each other.
Just like that last one had a few songs in it. That please do not comment in my diary. If you didn't know what was going on, that was just snark and humor. But if you knew what was going on, you knew what was going on.
Yeah, I took it as just a broad. Sometimes people don't want to hear the other side.
No, it was directed at a phenomenon that I don't want to see get out of hand.
All right, thanks everyone. Good night.
Stand by.
Let's see that again. I'm not ready for that. Ready for this?